What's up, Trader's Edge? It's Mark Sebastian, your only option. Today, I'm going to wrap up the week. We'll talk about what happened with the S&P, the Qs, the Russell 2000, and the VIX. And I'll preview next week, which is just chock full of earnings and major economic news. So with that, let's dig in. Traders. So the S&P 500 closed at a new all-time high, briefly breaking over 6,800 on Friday. Really nice day. Why? CPI. CPI came in a little bit light. That gives the Fed the space to be able to lower rates. Lower rates, the market likes it. We saw that pattern happen the last time we were going to get it. So, take a look. When we're expecting rate cuts and into rate cuts, the market tends to go up. We're seeing that again. I expect Monday and Tuesday to be pretty bullish. Pretty bullish indeed. The Qs, also a new all-time high, completely breaking out. We saw strength in Apple, AMD, Broadcom. I mean, across the board, the great eight were strong except Tesla. Tesla was down. Had a pretty nice Thursday, but down on Friday. It's about the only major name that was not up on Friday. And then the Russell 2000. I continue to believe this is the most interesting index right now. It's been on a really nice run. Outside of the 10th, which was really ugly, and the 16th, you can see it's really just been up. And as we head into the Fed, I think you're going to see it breaking out into a new all-time high. My eventual target here is going to be about $267 for IWM. Looking at the VIX, VIX is now back to kind of where it was hanging out for most of October. I'm going to talk about economics and what's happening next week in a moment. You can see the options on VIX are still a little bit expensive, but VIX itself has really come off. It got as high as 29 on the 17th and has basically been in a free fall since. I like it to at least get to 15, maybe lower as the week progresses. Now let's talk about what's happening next week. It is the earnings week. The earnings week. On the 29th, we get earnings from Google, Meta, and Microsoft. On the 30th, Apple and Amazon. I just want to focus on Microsoft and Apple because those are the two biggest companies that are reporting. Microsoft still not at a new all-time high. The market is pricing at about a 4.35% move. That is above normal. The last 4 quarters, it has moved more than the market was expecting. It was down 6%, up 7%, and then up about 4%. So Microsoft has moved more than we've expected. The other big one reporting is Apple. Apple, another nice day. They're pricing in there. Big money, big banks, option traders. They're pricing in about a 3.25% move. That's about a point below normal. Now, over the last, you have to go all the way back to May of 2024 to see an Apple outperformance. We have not gotten a lot of major moves out of Apple. The last time it really did anything interesting, you got to go back to October of 2022. That is the last time Apple made a move over 6%. You got to move in May of 2024. But really, it's kind of a boring one. The stock is at an all-time high. I think it's a fade, but fading Apple has been a loser's game. I'm not going to try and sell it until I see it roll over. There are some other names reporting, but those are the 5 big ones. Now, the big news coming out is on the 29th, and that is when we're going to get from the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell's news conference. That one should be interesting. I think the more interesting piece is not whether they're going to cut rates. That's almost a foregone conclusion. But what do those dot plots look like? How does the market interpret what Powell says? What's going to happen? Here's what I'll tell you. No matter what happens, options going into that event are not expensive enough. Right now, for next week, the S&P 500 is pricing in at $95 of movement. That is less than 1.5%. That is way, and I mean way too inexpensive, given all the earnings out there and the Federal Reserve. And let's not forget, there's an off chance that we get a resolution to the shutdown next week as well. So there is so much news out there, and they're only charging me $95 for that straddle. You're saying, Mark, $95, still $95. Well, you can trade in like XSP or SPY at about 1/10 the price, so about $9.50. And again, that is way too inexpensive. All right. Now, what stock am I watching that isn't those major 5 names for next week? What am I paying close attention to? And I'm going to pull up USAR. The stock, after absolutely blowing higher, has pulled all the way back. It has almost closed the gap here. That gap between 22 up to 26. It's almost closed it. It completely closes that gap. I'm going to start buying. I like USAR long term. I like their prospects. There's an off chance that the government invests in them. It's a really interesting name, one of my favorites, and a really interesting play on rare earth. This is one to watch for next week. Watch to see if it closes that gap. If it does, you're going to want to get involved. Speaking of getting involved, we had an open house in Delta Strike Wednesday through Friday. We closed one really profitable trade where we opened 2 new ones. We're running a special on Delta Strike. I'd like you to join. You can click this link to check out the 2 years for the price of 1 offer, or you can call my team 888-872-3301. And if you're watching me on YouTube, please like and subscribe, leave a question or a comment, and I will answer you. I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. Have a great weekend.